Good morning, everyone. My name is Umeda Mio, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to LNG Producer Consumer Conference 2024, Future of LNG, Security, Affordability, and Decarbonization. We would like to start the conference with an opening speech by the co-chair of the conference, Mr. Murase Yoshifumi, Commissioner of Agency for Natural Resources and Energy, METI Japan.
皆様、おはようございます。Good morning。本日は IEA と日本の経済産業省の共催である LNG 参照会議2024にご参加いただき、誠にありがとうございます。今回は LNG 輸入者国際グループ GIIGNL とも連携させていただき、産業界からも多数のご出席をいただいており、ここに改めて感謝を申し上げさせていただきたいと思います。今回の LNG 参照会議のテーマは Future of LNG, Security, Affordability and Decarbonization と設定しております。LNG 市場は世界的な地政学的影響により、かつてない危機を経験いたしました。現在、そこからの回復途上にあるわけでありますけれども、一方で、この危機は我々にエネルギートランジションに向けた取り組みを進める中で、エネルギー安全保障と安定的な価格でのエネルギー確保を同時達成しなければいけないという困難な課題を克服する必要性について、改めて強く認識させたところであります。こうした中、天然ガス、LNG が担う役割について、再認識が求められているところであります。LNG 火力発電は再エネの間欠性の補完、成長するアジア、アフリカをはじめとする国々において、低排出で安定した電源としての役割を果たしていきます。そして LNG のバリューチェーンは、さらなる低炭素化の可能性があります。これらの点に目を向ける必要があります。こうした天然ガス、LNG の将来像の提示は、安定的なガス市場の発展を促し、世界のエネルギー安定供給に貢献すると考えています。我が国においては、今年は第7次エネルギー基本計画策定をする年になっています。これまでの議論の中でも、脱炭素電源の確保が中核テーマになる一方で、トランジション期間における化石燃料の確保、特にコスト競争力のある LNG の安定的な確保、長期的な確保とその利用が、もう一つの大きな政策課題の焦点となっているところであります。本日、この後、IEA から2年間のワークプランが発表されるところであります。これは過去の危機からの学び、多様な需要シナリオ分析、LNG バリューチェーンの低炭素化のロードマップ作成に加えて、IEA 閣僚会議や G7 エネルギー大臣会合で合意されたガスリザーブメカニズムの研究を含むものです。これらの取り組みを通じて、IEA とともに LNG の市場セキュリティ強化と LNG バリューチェーンの低炭素化に取り組んでまいります。また、本日、こうした課題に対するいくつかの具体的な協力についても発表が行われます。ガスセキュリティの強化に向けては、今年6月に日本とイタリアの首脳間で合意をいたしました天然ガス分野での協力を含むアクションプランを受けて、経済産業省とイタリア環境エネルギー安全保障省との間で、包括的な協力の方向性を示し、ジョグメクとイタリアのエニが緊急時の調達協力を含む合意を発表いたします。LNG バリューチェーンの低炭素化に向けましては、昨年、ジェラとコガスが発表したメタン排出の情報透明化に関する貢献の取り組みであるクリーンイニシアチブについて、この後、ジョグメックから1年間の取り組みの成果と、その拡大について発表があるところであります。 また、日本と欧州委員会のメタン排出削減に向けた連携、そして経済産業省と GII、GNL とのカーボンニュートラル LNG のフレームワークに関する協力について公表させていただきます。本日、エネルギー参照会議は、初めて GII、GNL と連携しての開催となります。官民の関係者の皆様が一堂に会する機会となります。昨年5月、まさにこのグランドプリンスホテル広島で G7 広島サミットが開催をされました。そこで示されたエネルギー安定供給確保の政策の方向性に沿って、場所を同じくして、本日、国情に応じたさまざまな道筋を認識し、LNG を中心にエネルギーセキュリティの重要性について議論できることを嬉しく思います。最近の中東情勢を含めた地政学的リスクが高まる中で、本日、こうして天然ガスのプロデューサーとコンシューマーが対話するということは、市場の安定化に資する、誠に事業を得たものであると考えています。本会議が天然ガス LNG をめぐる諸課題について、官民の関係者にご議論いただくプラットフォームとなることを期待しております。本日は闊達なご議論をよろしくお願い申し上げます。
Thank you, Mr. Murase. Next, the co-chair of the conference, Mr. Sadamori Keisuke, Director, Energy Markets and Security Directorate, International Energy Agency, will give a keynote speech on IEA's work plan and initial findings on gas security, which will form the basis of the discussions at the LNG PCC.
皆さんおはようございます。Thank you for the nice introduction, and thanks to Murase-san for his excellent opening remarks. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, it is a pleasure to welcome you today in Hiroshima at the LNG Producer Consumer Conference. And personally, I'm happy to be back to this place of the G7 leaders meeting venue since May of 2023. So the geopolitical tensions cast a long shadow on global energy markets and call for greater international cooperation to ensure the gas and energy supply security. Responsible producers and consumers will need to work together to reinforce the architecture of the global gas supply security. Russia's piped gas the deliveries to Europe fell by almost 120 BCM through 2022 to 23 period, equating around 1/5 of the global LNG market. This unprecedented gas supply shock not only drove up the natural gas prices to all-time highs and necessitated readjustment in natural gas demand, but also transformed the global gas markets in a structural way. The LNG effectively became a new baseload, the source of gas supply for Europe, while the phase out of the Russian piped gas to Europe reduced the supply flexibility. This structurally lower gas market flexibility means that the other options, such as the storage, LNG peak shaving, and demand response, will have to play a greater role in balancing the market in the coming years. In addition, the closer dialogue between the producers and consumers should explore the development of innovative commercial offerings, new procurement mechanisms, and cooperation frameworks favoring a more flexible supply of the LNG. And while the natural gas is expected to face different demand trajectories across regions, there is a continued need to assess how to ensure the investments in gas infrastructures and evolving nature and the role of the long-term contracts. In this context, the architecture of the global gas supply security needs to be carefully assessed and reinforced. As Mr. Murase introduced in his opening remarks, in 2024, the IEA started a METI-funded 2-year work program on gas supply security and the role of gas and the LNG in the energy transitions. The work program lays on 4 key pillars. So first is the assessment of lessons learned from the past energy crisis. So this analysis will identify contributing factors to past crises, assess the responses of companies and governments, and provide guidance for future crisis management through a set of lessons and recommendations derived from the past experiences. Second is the study on a voluntary gas reserve mechanisms. So well-designed gas reserve mechanisms, whether they're physical or virtual, can enhance the gas supply security and price stability. The building on an extensive consultation process, the IEA will provide an analysis on potential frameworks for voluntary gas reserve mechanisms presented in a special report. Third is the sensitivity cases of the long-term scenarios. So IEA's long-term scenarios, as presented in the World Energy Outlook, offer a range of outcomes for natural gas and LNG demand under a set of policy and macroeconomic assumptions. However, the additional uncertainty that arises for gas and LNG demand from factors such as inflation, economic growth, renewable energy costs, and the cost of building and maintaining infrastructure. As part of this work stream, the IEA will conduct a sensitivity analysis to explore how its main long-term scenarios may change if the underlying assumptions are altered. And finally, fourth, the clean gas and the LNG value chains. So IEA will conduct a study to develop a roadmap for the decarbonization of the LNG value chains, focusing on the upstream and midstream stages. The growing flexibility and the liquidity of the global LNG market was crucial in the response to the gas supply shock of 2022. While the European LNG imports increased by 60% in 2022, the Asian LNG imports declined by 7%, primarily driven by lower inflows to China, which saw an unprecedented drop of 20% in its LNG procurement. The United States alone accounted for 2/3 of the incremental LNG deliveries to Europe. The destination flexibility in the contract structures underpinning the US LNG supply was instrumental in enabling these higher LNG flows. Without this strong LNG inflow, the European market would have been left in a significantly more vulnerable position ahead of the 2022 to 2023 winter period heating season, while with an increased risk of gas supply disruptions. In contrast, the price-sensitive buyers with high exposure to the spot market faced a deterioration in the security of their gas and electricity supply in 2022, with rotating power cuts introduced in Bangladesh and Pakistan amid the inadequacy of gas supplies. The global energy crisis triggered by the Russian invasion of Ukraine put gas supply security and storage regulation at the center of the policy interventions. So this map provides us with a high overview of the storage policies initiated since the start of the gas crisis. So Singapore introduced a standby LNG facility at the end of 2021, and in June 2022, the Energy Market Authority extended it until the 31st of March 2023 to address the risk of the gas supply disruptions. The European Union adopted a new gas storage regulation at the end of June 2022 with a target storage field level of 80% of capacity before the winter of 2022 to 23, and then 90% ahead of the following winter periods. Under the current regulation, storage capacity filling obligation will come to an end on the 31st of December of 2025. Japan's METI launched a strategic buffer LNG since 2023 to 24 focus on winter season. Under this system, METI designate the private operators with additional LNG procurement capacity as companies they authorized to handle the SBL the operations. In the event of the contingency that could hinder the LNG supply, the government instruct the designated companies to sell their LNG cargoes to utilities in Japan facing the risk of supply disruption. And the government will compensate the designated operator for any losses and the operational costs caused by the instructed trade. Now, the natural gas faces an uncertain outlook, especially in the emerging economies. Key uncertainties impacting the future of natural gas demand include the government policies, market prices, energy efficiency trends, electrification, and the deployment of heat pumps, and the expansion of wind and solar. The forthcoming World Energy Outlook will explore the impact of potential uncertainty on the outlook for natural gas and also other fuels. The reducing methane emission through the gas and LNG value chain would be a time and cost-efficient way for the gas industry to act on climate changes. So emission intensity is emerging as the critical differentiator among the LNG projects, as lower emission profiles are seen as a natural hedge against the regulatory uncertainties. The reducing emissions will require efforts through the entire value chain and close cooperation between producers and consumers. And the electrification of upstream operations, methane leak reduction, low-emission electricity sourcing, and the CCUS-based solutions are among the key technology options which could significantly reduce the GHG emissions from LNG operations already in the short to medium term. The low-emission gases, including the biomethane, hydrogen, and e-methane, can play a crucial role in decarbonizing gas supply chains and broader energy systems, especially the hard-to-abate sectors like the heavy industry, long-haul transport, and the seasonal storage. The scale-up of low-emissions gases will naturally transform the existing the gas systems. So gas supply chains will become more complex and increasingly decentralized and will necessitate a more intimate integration between the distribution and the transmission networks, as well as the storage system operators. The gas quality will display a greater diversity and variability, raising issues related to the interoperability of the adjacent gas systems and the integration of methane and hydrogen networks. The gas supply flexibility will be altered by the operational characteristics of the low-carbon production facilities, network interconnectivity, and the availability of the storage options. In this context, e-methane can play a crucial role in the system integration of low-emission gases while enhancing the seasonal and short-term flexibility of the overall gas system. So, dear colleagues, please allow me to conclude with a few closing remarks. So the new global gas market, emerging after the 2022-3 the gas supply shock, requires a careful assessment of the architecture of the global gas supply. The IEA's work program was enhanced accordingly. The growing liquidity of the global LNG market, together with demand-side flexibility, was crucial in the response to the gas supply shock of 22-23. And third, there's a clear need to assess the value of new gas supply flexibility mechanisms, both by physical gas reserves and also the enhanced international cooperation. And natural gas faces an uncertain outlook, especially in emerging economies. And the forthcoming World Energy Outlook will include the sensitivity cases on the outlook for natural gas and other fuels. And finally, reducing GHG greenhouse gas emissions, the associated with the gas and the LNG supply will require effort through the entire value chain and close cooperation between the producers and consumers. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to the very active, productive discussions today. Thank you very much for including us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sadamori. The LNG Producer Consumer Conference has been held with a focus on dialogue between producers and consumers. Now, the senior representatives of governments and state-owned companies will deliver a series of short remarks. First, from Australia, please welcome Ms. Megan Quinn, PSM, Secretary of the Department of Industry, Science and Resources.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm somewhat shorter than a previous speaker. Thank you very much for the invitation today, and I acknowledge all my senior representatives and colleagues. The growth of the global LNG industry since the 1960s has been marked by significant capital investment, enduring government support, and innovation. That narrative is clearly visible throughout the development of Australia's LNG export industry. The North West Gas Shelf joint venture was made possible by substantial Japanese investment and a strong commitment from all levels of the Australian government. The first shipment of LNG from Australia was to Japan in July 1989, aboard the Northwest Sandiland, a state-of-the-art carrier ship developed by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. In the 35 years since that first shipment, Australia has built a reputation as a reliable, safe and a competitive LNG producer. Our LNG is now embedded across Asia-Pacific supply chains, and in 2023, Australia exported 81 million tonnes of LNG, with 35% coming here to Japan. As well as our biggest buyer of LNG, Japan also invests heavily in Australian gas projects, most notably the 45 billion Ichi LNG facility in the Northern Territory. As a result of this activity over decades, Australia and Japan have built up close working relationships across all levels of our two nations, between producers, consumers, financiers, trading houses and governments. That is a good thing. These connections and collaboration and trust will be important as both our nations navigate the challenges of transition of our economies to meet our joint objectives of reducing emissions to net zero. We would all like to see the global energy transition be smooth, orderly and sustainable. But wishing for such a transition is unlikely to be enough. We will need to ensure careful planning and clear communication on that journey. Recognising this reality, the Australian government released its future gas strategy in May. This strategy sets out the government's principles that will underpin all future gas policy. There were 6 principles, but the 3 most relevant for this audience here today are the ones focused on the international environment. So first, Australia is committed to supporting global, and I emphasise global emission reductions to reduce the impact of climate change and will meet net zero by 2050. But in that transition, new sources of gas supply will be needed to meet demand during the transition. And third, Australia is and will remain a reliable trading partner for energy, including energy, LNG and new emission gases. The overall sentiment of the strategy can be summed up as gas will remain an important source of energy through to 2050 and beyond, both in Australia and elsewhere. These principles are shaping practical actions by the Australian government, and often actions speak louder than words. A few items from just the recent months. So first, we are working with our regulators and the LNG industry to reduce and eliminate venting and flaring, unless for safety purposes. The government has released and permitted additional offshore acreages for greenhouse gas storage exploration. We are working to modernise our regulations to ensure that they are fit for purpose for greenhouse gas storage activities. And we have established a new initiative for regional cooperation on carbon capture and storage, with Australian and Japanese officials already talking. Carbon management solutions must be scaled up if we are to reduce emissions and continue to use gas as an energy source. Identifying viable carbon capture and storage options will be a vital part of this process. Australia is fortunate to have large, stable offshore geological formations that are suitable for containing CO2. To that end, the Australian government is investing 3.4 billion Australian dollars over 35 years in a pre-competitive geoscience program that will, amongst other things, map offshore areas for the first time. All these practical and tangible actions will help create opportunities for new storage projects and for deeper collaboration between Australia and our regional partners. So in conclusion, Australian LNG exports have been improving living standards across the Asia-Pacific for over 3 decades. That will remain the case as gas is an important part of the global energy transition. As we look ahead, I want to assure our customers that the Australian government's support for LNG export industry remains strong, that we will work with LNG projects to ensure they come to fruition, such as Barossa and the Scarborough LNG projects, and that we will continue to collaborate with partners over the long haul to ensure the LNG remains innovative, responsive and competitive. Thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing the discussion through this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn PSM. Next, from China, please welcome Mr. Wu Mowen, Vice President, China National Petroleum Corporation Economics and Technology Research Institute. Please give a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's my great honor to be here. My name is Wu Mo Yuan. I'm from Economic and Technology Research Institute, or ETRI. ETRI is part of CNPC and also is China top think tanks in energy area. Today, the global energy is becoming more and more complex. Governments have placed a significantly greater emphasis on energy security. China is coordinating energy security with transition and development, accelerating the construction of a new energy system. Also, China's natural gas market is facing new opportunities and challenges. In 2024, because of China's sustained economic growth and the dual carbon growth, both supply and consumption of natural gas have achieved rapid growth. On the supply side, both domestic production and imports of natural gas have been fast growth. From January to August, domestic production reached 165 billion cubic meters, and it is expected to reach 248 billion cubic meters for the whole year. A year-on-year increase of over 13 billion cubic meters, making the 8th consecutive years with an increase of over 10 billion cubic meters. Imported gas value also saw a year-on-year increase of more than 11%. This is supply side. On the demand side, from January to August, natural gas consumption reached 275 billion cubic meters, and year-on-year increased nearly about 10%. It's very, very quickly. And we think the annual consumption volume will reach 420 billion cubic meters, with an increase of over 13 billion cubic meters this year, far exceeding our expectations. Maybe this year is the growth fastest year in past 5 years. So in our opinion, natural gas will become a crucial energy source to support the green transition of China. It will act as the best partner for the development of renewable energy and played a significant role in many areas, such as urban gas, transportation, industrial sector, and power generation. Overall, there is still considerable room for growth in China, with the expectation that demand growth will continue until 2040, reaching over 600 billion cubic meters by 2040. At the same time, the development of natural gas also faces constraints from the accelerated development of renewable energy and the lack of price competitiveness. Also, at the end of August, the installed capacity of renewable energy power generation in China reached 1.27 billion kilowatts, accounting for more than 40% of the total power generation capacity. Cost competitiveness is becoming a key factor affecting the scale of natural gas power generation. China's natural gas supply capacity will also be further enhanced. Domestic production will reach over 300 billion cubic meters by 2035. At the same time, LNG receiving stations will be put into production massively. Receiving capacity will be doubled in next 2 years. But since the Ukraine crisis, natural gas is more closely linked to politicals. Gas price volatility increased. I think it's bad for the LNG value chain. So finally, I suggest we need to enhance cooperation and communication to ensure a stable supply and a competitive price. It is very important for the natural gas sustainable and bright future. So, thanks for listening. 谢谢.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. Next, from European Commission, please join me in welcoming Mr. Matthew Baldwin, Deputy Director General for Energy.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's a great honor to be here on behalf of the European Commission, and all my congratulations to METI and the IEA for organizing so well. I have never before in my entire and quite long career in public service seen so many people gathered together at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. I guess I should go to church more often. But seriously, I think it's partly to do with the attractiveness of the venue and the centrality of the subject, and bringing together everybody together from Asia, from Australia, from North America and Europe is critical, because this is, ladies and gentlemen, all part of the energy transition, and we must work together on this. We're here to talk about LNG, and thank you to the IEA for a great analysis, which I think sets the course very clearly for us this morning. But let's not forget, we have another COP looming on the horizon, and just at COP28, we agreed to accelerate our global efforts towards net zero emission energy systems. We agreed for the first time to transition away from fossil fuels, and we agreed to triple renewable energy capacity globally and to double the average global annual rate of energy efficiency by 2030. And the first global stocktake also agreed explicitly to the substantial reduction of non-carbon emissions and methane emissions in particular by 2030. And those are some of the things we'd also like to be talking about in the margins. And we are hoping for a similar level of ambition for COP29. And so as we talk about LNG, and we are every bit as agreed as the previous speakers as centrality, we will need gas at lower levels throughout the coming decade and a half, all the way through 2049. So we're very grateful to be able to work with you on so many of these linked issues so well identified by the IEA. And this will be critical if we are all to manage our trilemma of energy policy, of affordability, security, and of course sustainability. Two things I wanted to flag in particular in relation to the work we've been doing with Japan since last year's very successful LNG PCC. And let me say two words about each of those. The first is on exchanging information on LNG and security of supply, which our IEA colleagues have already touched on. We're very grateful for the fruitful cooperation under the International Energy Agency Task Force on Gas Security, the TFSS, and also for working with us, Japan in particular, for being a front runner in terms of the Global Early Warning Mechanism, a tool for participating parties, both producers and consumers on the LNG side, to exchange information on gas security supply matters and incidents. We now have the US, we have Australia, we have Canada as part of the mechanism, and South Korea in the process of joining. We have discussions with other potential participants. So if you're not in it yet, please come forward. We have the pilot phase launched last year, which will run until the end of this heating season with a view to setting it permanently. And we'd like to, secondly, work together to include gas security of supply more permanently into the IEA's framework. We could, for example, integrate the task force on gas security into the permanent institutional structures of the IEA. And as the IEA have well identified, you've seen already, I think, the different approaches to security reserves that we take globally, and I think this is a very useful and appropriate topic of communication. The second thing I wanted to flag was on methane, of course, and we have been strengthening our cooperation to reduce methane emissions from fossil fuels. Here in the same conference in 2023, together with the US and Australia and South Korea, the EU and Japan signed a joint statement on accelerating methane mitigation from the LNG value chain. And today, we and the Japanese side are very pleased to be announcing concrete follow-up showing our reaffirmed commitment to reaching the global methane pledge targets in our cooperation as consuming countries. I think as consumers, alignment together on the methane initiatives as well as on global standards for data transparency and collection will be absolutely crucial. Together, we can indeed not only keep the momentum which we've generated with the global methane pledge, but continue to raise global ambitions in terms of the reduction of methane emissions. And that's something, too, we hope to come back to in this year's COP. Thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward to the discussion for the rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Next, from Italy, please welcome to the podium Mr. Marco Principe, Consul General of Italy.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, allow me to thank the Ministry of Energy and Trade and Industry and the International Energy Agency for co-chairing this conference. This conference is an important moment of exchange between LNG producing and consumer countries that is assuming increased strategic importance also in the light of recent geopolitical events. And I'm particularly pleased to join this conference today. Italy is among the largest consumers and importer of natural gas in Europe, and certainly the country with the greatest diversification of gas supplies routes in the Union. Before the Russian invasions of Ukraine and the subsequent necessary decision to end the dependence on Russian gas, the Italian natural gas system was based predominantly on pipeline imports. In the past 2 years, the desire to emancipate itself from Russian gas supplies has prompted the Italian government to act to expand national regasification capacity by maximizing the potential of existing regasifiers and authorizing the entry into operation of 2 additional floating regasifiers, planning to exceed 25 billion per year of capacity by 2025. In this particular international scenario of growing concerns about the free movement of the LNG to consumer markets, fueled particularly by the unpredictable dynamics of the current Middle East crisis, the security of gas supplies remains a central issue for Italy. The goals of increasing the security of supply do not conflict with the challenging climate neutrality goals taken at the European and global level, but they do represent an important element of the transition to decarbonization. Therefore, we welcome the opportunity for international discussion to understand and address the main challenges of this moment that sees us committed to increase the autonomy of our energy systems and, at the same time, committed to combating climate change and decarbonization of industrial systems. Let us recall in conclusions the outcome of this year's G7 Italian presidency, which emphasized the important role of LNG as a response to the current situation and to address potential gas market failures caused by the crisis. Collaboration between governments and exchange of information is crucial, and occasions such as today's demonstrate this. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Principe. Next, from Oman, please welcome to the podium Mr. Hamed Mohammed Al-Namani, Chief Executive Officer, Oman LNG.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the honor and the opportunity to meet on Sunday. We're used to work on Sunday, so if you want to try, come to Oman and we'll show you how active we are on Sunday. Less on Fridays, actually. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. Indeed, the 13th edition of LNG Producer Consumer Conference is important as we see an evolving situation in terms of the challenges. But 13 means also that there have been 1 to 12, and through these years, there have been an evolution of challenges. But we have been through them because we've worked together. We've collaborated, we've put our mind together and addressed those as they come. Currently, of course, we have the challenge around the energy trilemma. These are exemplified, of course, by the geopolitics. All of us who watch the news, and some of us flying had to take a slightly different route. And it says a little bit about the world we're living in. But if we continue to work together, we should be able to put a practical, pragmatic solution between regulators, between producers and consumers, to make sure that we continue to address what the society expects from us as an industry, which is a reliable source of energy that will enable the world to be sustained. And the sustainability, we look, for example, at our Oman Vision 2040, which is really linked on a sustainable growth for the country, but also for all those we partner with. Our framework for sustainability is linked to net zero. And we see already in Oman very clearly that we're putting really actions on the tables. The Oman hydrogen economy, that a lot of you have heard about it, is really there to enable a meaningful transition, but also integration of energy sources. Renewable energy enable us not only to decarbonize and replace, but also to transition effectively and affordably our energy sources around the world. And for us at Oman LNG, we're able to integrate for very soon renewable in our energy mix that supply LNG plant. Essentially, what we're doing is practically change the way we report Scope 1 and Scope 2, which means we will still be able to work with you as our partners in addressing sustainability and net zero across the value chain. What is important for all of us is that we cooperate between producers, between consumers, energy providers, and regulators on a common direction, on clear ways of reporting that are auditable but understandable, that are pragmatic, that will not leave money on the table, but they will allow us to actually invest that money where it really matters and be able to deliver this energy that a lot of societies need to grow and flourish in a manner that is reliable. In Japan, we are really pleased to always be here. It's a very friendly country for us, but has been our partner for many, many years. We always remember the first LNG the first crude cargo lifted by our colleague from Itoshu in Oman. We know that it meant a lot, and it has grown our industry where it is. But also, LNG has been primarily delivered in this region, including in Japan. And we'll continue to deliver an LNG in the near future to key markets in this region, including in Japan. So therefore, we would like to work with all of you, our partners in the technology industry, our partners in the regulatory and government, and our partner in the producing countries to ensure that we address these energy trilemmas so that the 14th LNG PCC, we will be able to actually look back and say that we have actually ticked some of these practical elements and we have taken steps going forward. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you again for the opportunity to learn from you. And thank you again for the opportunity to engage with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Ma'amani. Next, from Malaysia, please welcome Mr. Ezha Yazid Jafar, Chief Representative of Petronas, Representative Office, Japan.
Honorable Mr. Murase, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, normally when I get up early on Sunday, that means I'm playing golf. So it's an honor for me to speak on behalf of Petronas today, and we'd like to extend our appreciation to METI for inviting us to this event. As Petronas celebrates our 50th anniversary this year, we are truly grateful for the partnership that we have forged with Japan since the first delivery of our LNG cargo in 1983. The theme on the future of LNG is indeed a strategic topic, given the current geopolitical climate, market dynamics, and the push for decarbonization. Amidst the ongoing global crisis, energy security and energy accessibility continue to remain essential, especially in certain parts of the world. While we strive towards decarbonization, LNG remains vital in the energy transition. LNG is increasingly flexible and relatively cost-effective, and it is a lower carbon fuel, as we all know, that complements renewable. Japan's leadership in advocating for natural gas investment while moving towards cleaner energy system, as reflected in G7 communique, is highly commendable. At Petronas, we are strengthening our global production globally. In Malaysia, we are committed to develop new gas fields and expanding our supply sources, including from Canada, the US, and hopefully in the future from Indonesia and Argentina. We are also advancing our third floating LNG, which is set to commence production in 2027, and have introduced LNG solutions such as marine bunkering to support IMO 2020 regulations. We are modernizing our LNG fleet with 17 new energy efficient vessels coming in stages from this year until 2027. This will reduce transportation costs and reduce emission, which will benefit consumers and all stakeholders. While LNG is cleaner than other fossil fuels, its long-term sustainability depends on the reduction of its carbon footprint. Petronas is committed to achieving NZCE by 2050 and has embarked on many initiatives to decarbonize our LNG value chain. Our midterm target is to reduce the overall GHG emission by 25% by 2030 in comparison to 2019 levels. For example, our first CCS project, Kasawari, will inject its first CO2 by 2026, and this will reduce the carbon intensity of our LNG. We are developing 3 CCS hubs in Malaysia with the support of partners, including from JobMac, to capture emissions from Petronas' own facilities, from Malaysia, and from surrounding regions. We are also working to manage methane emissions, being a member of OGMP 2.0, and supporting METI and JobMac's Clean Initiative. We commended Japan's and METI leadership through initiatives such as the ASEC and the Japan's GX, including the Financial Support Scheme, which is instrumental in promoting energy transition and decarbonization across Asia. Kudos to METI. In conclusion, we believe LNG will continue to remain a vital component in the global energy mix for energy security, for affordability, and due to the other factors highlighted by various speakers today. Investment in clean technology, including along LNG value chain, are key to ensuring LNG's role in the future. At Petronas, we are collaborating with partners to develop solutions such as in CCS, synthetic methane, hydrogen, clean ammonia, sustainable fuel, and renewable energy. We are committed to being a progressive energy and solutions partner, enriching lives for a sustainable future. I am excited with the journeys ahead, and I extend my best wishes for the success of this year's LNG PCC to METI. And that's all. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, Mr. Azhar. Next from Indonesia, please welcome Vu Mutia, Vice President, LNG PT Pertamina.
Very good morning, everyone. It's a great honor for me to be part of this prestigious conference and representing Pertamina Indonesia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia and Japan share a strong bilateral relationship, underpinned by deep economic ties and cooperations in various sectors. The energy sector, particularly LNG, has been a key area of collaborations between Indonesia and Japan. Indonesia's energy future relies on striking a delicate balance between security, affordability, and decarbonization. As the nation's energy leaders, Pertamina is dedicated to achieving all three objectives with LNG emerges as a central player in our strategy. LNG offers a cleaner and more efficient alternatives to traditional fuels while effectively meeting our growing energy demand. However, we face significant challenges in ensuring that the LNG supply remains reliable, affordable, and sustainable. To address these challenges, Pertamina's strategic approaches are focused on enhancing our resilience in the energy sectors. To enhance security, we are diversifying our LNG sources and investing in domestic infrastructure. In alignment with Indonesia's growing demand, Pertamina aims to expand our upstream project to enhance LNG resources and manage our portfolio, targeting an increase up to 8 MTPA from both domestic and overseas portfolio by 2030. These expansions will not only strengthen our energy security, but also contribute to Indonesia's economic growth. Our focus on affordability involves competitive pricings and innovative approaches to make LNG more accessible. In terms of decarbonizations, we are actively pursuing carbon reductions through technology such as carbon capture, renewable energy integrations, and sustainable transportation solutions. As a leader in Indonesia's broader energy transitions, Pertamina is investing in renewable energy sources and actively working to reduce our carbon emissions, with the ambitious goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2045. Joint study agreement between Pertamina and JOGMEC to implement methane emission measurement system in Dongi Matindok and Senoro Field in Sulawesi is tangible proof of Pertamina's commitment to enhance decarbonizations. In conclusion, LNG is a fundamental element of Indonesia's energy futures. By addressing the challenges of security, affordability, and decarbonizations, Pertamina is committed to fostering a sustainable and prosperous energy landscape. We are ready to collaborate globally to ensure a resilient and efficient cleaner energy supply that meet our collective goals. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Bu Mutia. Next, from Thailand, please welcome to the podium Mr. Utikong Stitit, Chief Operating Officer, PTT Public Company Limited.
Very good morning. Thank you very much for inviting us to join this special event. It's good to be back in Japan. That is a very beautiful country. Also having chance to meet a lot of good friends. Long time ago, we have talked so many people, also so many friends. I would say that Thailand is the country that we commit to natural gas and LNG. We use most of the gas and LNG for power generations. LNG is play a significant role in this current event. Currently, we use a lot of LNG, almost 11 million tons. Okay, we have 2 terminals. Okay, capacity of almost 20 million tons per year. And we start building the 3rd terminal at the moment. LNG represents around 35% of the natural gas consumption in Thailand. We would say that we import a lot of LNG, half of that is a long term, and almost half is a spot basis. During the Russian-Ukraine crisis, I'll say, we also have the impact of LNG. So we share the principle, the idea that in the longer term, LNG should be more supply, stable, and reliable, and also the price should be on the stability. Okay, so at the moment, we also commit to the net zero and carbon neutral. Okay, so we have facing the trilemma also. So we would like to working all together with the supplier, and we look for the opportunity for sharing benefit, and we have the open access. We have third-party access for the terminal. Everybody can use the terminal at the moment. So we would like to welcome all the suppliers and would like to work together with all the buyers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stidget. Next is also from Thailand. Please welcome to the podium Ms. Tanawali Jaimon, engineer of IGAT.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to be here today, representing the Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand, EGAT. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the METI and IEA for hosting this significant event. As a state-owned enterprise under the Ministry of Energy of Thailand, EGAT plays a critical role in ensuring the nation's energy security, stability, sustainability, particularly during this global energy transition. LNG has become an indispensable part of our energy mix, enabling us to diversify energy sources while maintaining the flexibility required to support the growing integration of renewable energy. The flexibility is key to address Thailand's increasing energy demand while aligning with our long-term commitment to reduce carbon emissions. To navigate the complexity of this transition, EGAT has developed the SSS strategy, which serves as our comprehensive roadmap towards achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. This strategy is built around three pillars. First, source transformation. LNG remains a vital bridge fuel as we transition to renewable energy sources. Its ability to provide stability and reliability during this transition is essential as we modernize our grid to accommodate the intermittent energy generation. Second, sync co-creation. EGAT is focusing on technology such as decarbonization innovation to reduce emissions and support our environmental sustainable goal. Lastly, support mature mechanism. We are advancing energy efficiency initiative and circular economy practice to optimize resource utilization, ensuring that our infrastructure is both environmentally sustainable and cost-effective over the long term. As we integrate more renewable energy into our grid, LNG will continue to play a pivotal role in ensuring the stability and reliability of Thailand's energy supply. However, this challenge we face in maintaining energy security, affordability, and decarbonization require coordinated international effort. EGAT recognizes the importance of strong global partnership and remains open to collaboration with LNG producer, consumer, and stakeholders worldwide to address this shared challenge. Looking ahead, EGAT remains fully committed to strong support Thailand energy transformation and contribute to global effort toward a sustainable energy future. By working together through our collaboration and innovation, we EGAT are confident that we can achieve our mutual goal of securing a cleaner and more affordable and reliable energy supplies for future generations. Once again, thank you to METI and IEA for your warm hospitality and hosting this important event. We're looking forward to strengthening partnership and continue our work toward a sustainable energy future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jaimon. Next, from the United States of America, Mr. Brad Crabtree, Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. Please look at the screen.
Thank you for the opportunity to join you by video, and I'm sorry not to be able to be with you today. I want to thank our trusted partner, the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, for inviting me to share a few words with you today. The U.S. Department of Energy's participation in this conference dates back to its inception in 2012, and we're pleased to be able to participate again this year, especially as we are focusing on important pathways towards a sustainable future for natural gas. And that is increasingly important when it comes to liquefied natural gas exports. Today, the United States produces more gas and exports more LNG than any other country. And we expect our exports to more than double by the end of this decade, once all projects currently under construction are completed. In addition to this doubling of supply by 2030, there are several other projects that the U.S. Department of Energy has authorized for export, but these projects have not yet reached a final investment decision and have therefore not proceeded to construction. So with our current export capacity, plus future additions coming online, we will be able to continue to supply Japan and our other key allies and trading partners. But with the privilege of being the largest producer and exporter of natural gas comes significant responsibility. It is imperative that we reconcile our role as a natural gas exporter with achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions economy-wide by mid-century. The credibility and long-term viability of the natural gas industry, both in the United States and globally, hinges on meeting this challenge. It is not enough to claim that increased natural gas exports will displace more emissions-intensive fuels like coal and oil. Instead, industry must demonstrate through concrete actions a credible pathway that puts natural gas firmly on a trajectory to meet net zero emissions by 2050. This is especially true in today's evolving natural gas market, where customers and governments in importing countries, including Japan and Korea, have begun to demand lower emissions natural gas exports and a decarbonized natural gas value chain. We welcome Japan and Korea's initiative to create the Coalition for LNG Emission Abatement toward Net Zero, or CLEAN, as an important contribution to this effort. We believe that three things are central to creating a sustainable future for natural gas. One, reducing methane emissions to near zero across the global supply chain by 2030. Two, rapidly deploying decarbonization technologies and infrastructure, especially carbon capture and storage. And three, laying the foundation for low carbon ammonia and hydrogen produced from natural gas with carbon capture, as well as from other low and zero carbon resources. In the United States, the Department of Energy is leveraging funding and incentives provided by the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law to help provide industry with the tools to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the natural gas value chain and to produce low carbon hydrogen and ammonia. Internationally, we are working to promote the development of a natural gas market in which buyers can confidently demand and producers can credibly supply natural gas with a lower methane and carbon dioxide emissions profile. The goal is to foster a global market that rewards continuous reductions in the emissions intensity of natural gas over time. Amidst the confusion of multiple private and public sector efforts to measure methane and carbon dioxide emissions associated with natural gas, there is currently no global consensus regarding expectations that purchasers, regulators, and other stakeholders should have for those companies making claims about the greenhouse gas intensity of their delivered or contracted gas. So for the past year, we have been supporting a work group of 19 natural gas importing and exporting countries, again including Japan and Korea, plus the European Commission and the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, to develop a shared approach to providing credible information regarding supply chain greenhouse gas emissions from different suppliers across the global market. In other words, developing an agreed global framework for measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification, or MMRV. Our technical subgroups are involving over 70 government experts from over a dozen countries. They are on track to have important elements of this framework ready by early next year for implementing a voluntary global framework for MMRV in the 2025 to 2026 timeframe. We appreciate the contributions of Japan, Korea, and other global partners in this effort, as well as the support of the natural gas industry, key NGOs, and other stakeholders around the world. In closing, I think we need more companies to make concrete commitments and with greater urgency if industries to demonstrate to the broader public that natural gas is ultimately compatible with a net zero world and a fundamental part of the broader portfolio of climate solutions. And we at DOE look forward to continuing to work with governments and industry around the world to advance a broader and more ambitious methane mitigation and decarbonization agenda. Thank you.
We would like to thank Mr. Crabtree for joining us by video.